And so I would love to see you tell us where you're from, where you're calling us from today, calling in from, and also tell us what job or industry you're looking for. So go ahead and start filling up that chat, letting us know you're here, connecting with each other. Good morning, David. Good morning, Jacqueline from Chandler. Welcome, Christina from Glendale. So go ahead and put that in there. Let us know what kind of jobs you're looking for. Also, something that's really cool that we've been doing is having you jump out to LinkedIn and grab your LinkedIn URL and drop that in the chat. It's been so great to connect with each other. You all can connect with each other. We can connect with you. Our speakers can connect with you. And so, oh, great. Stacy calling from Cave Creek, good morning. And Yvonne from Mesa. We're so glad you guys are here. Michael, welcome back. Barbie from Green Valley, nice. Lots of people calling in this morning. And so engage in the chat today, ask questions. We're gonna be taking questions all throughout the morning. We have a couple moderators that are on the chat, and so they're also gonna be answering any questions, but our speakers will also pause to answer questions, or they'll answer when they're done with theirs. If you don't have your video on and you feel comfortable, please turn your video on. We'd love to see your beautiful faces this morning. And that's another great way to engage with each other. You can also private message somebody on the chat. So feel free to do that during our talk today. You choose 5 people that you want to connect with and chat with them privately. That's another great thing to do. Also, if we see anything today that's inappropriate on the chat or on video or anywhere on our screens, and we can't make it stop, then we will shut down the call. Just wanted you guys to know, we will shut down the call and we will come right back in, but with everything blocked except for our speakers. So we don't want anything weird to stop us from continuing our program. So just be aware of that. If for some reason we have to shut down the call, we will come back in and you will be able to finish seeing the presentations today. Sheila, do you want to take it over for a minute?
Oh, sure. So if you are having any trouble with your sound, you probably can't hear me, but you could text the Career Connectors number here, and Diane will show you how you can click next to your toolbar, the microphone mute for your sound options. And I think we already covered the chat button. You can also control how the video of people's faces is displayed. There's a little icon above the bar that controls how many you see, and there's speaker versus gallery view, so you can play with that. And I guess just make sure that you're engaging on chat, because that's the way that we can connect and not just listen. I know Naomi has a lot of great information, so get something ready to take notes, because there's going to be a lot of great information here today.
Thanks, Sheila. All right, I love seeing the chat blow up. You know, as typically when we meet in person, one of the things we try to do is get you all connected, make sure you meet a couple people at each event. And so because we aren't face-to-face, we're trying to recreate that in the best way possible. So many of you may have heard by now that networking is basically the top way to get connected to a job. And really that just means building relationships. So if there's any way that you can reach out to somebody in here, you know, get outside of your maybe comfy box. Most of us are working from home in some capacity right now. So get outside of your box at home and reach out to somebody virtually. Pick up the phone, make a phone call. Really, you're going to find great jobs by someone who knows someone who knows someone. So try to get a little courage up and reach out to people, connect with them directly, connect with everybody you can on LinkedIn. You see a lot of URLs here. Feel free to click on those URLs. If you are dropping your URL in here, if you make it a live link, it makes it much easier for people to connect with you. So try to make it a live link. You can scroll up and see Sheila Bloom and Heidi and Beth have made live links right there, and you guys can connect right on them and connect with them today. All right, so this morning we are going to hear from Naomi Bukta. I lost my job, now what? And we'll also hear from Liz from Blue Cross Blue Shield. And then at the end of the program, I'm gonna spend just a couple minutes going through some additional resources for you guys, including our virtual coaching program. All right, I'm so honored to introduce Naomi this morning. She has been a Career Connectors advocate for many, many, many years and has been on our stage a couple times. And we're so glad you're here, Naomi. She brings more than 20 years of experience building great companies with strategic partnerships in global environments. And as a vice president of sales in the educational technology space, she has worked with many major entities ranging from developing small, little known companies with significant growth opportunities to building strategic partnerships at major corporations. Because of her experiences, she has conducted numerous seminars and workshops focusing on personal transition and social networking. She'll take you through a quick journey on navigating what can be, but doesn't have to be, the treacherous road of surviving unemployment. And she is here to share her story and her experience in what works. So please help me welcome Naomi Bukta.
Yeah, the new virtual that, maybe it's this, huh? I don't know. So thank you, everyone. I appreciate it. I appreciate Jessica and Sheila for allowing me to come and talk to you. I'm pretty excited. I need to be able to, even though we practice me taking the screen, Sheila, now I'm not seeing the screen thing.
You got it. Go lower left.
All right. Oh, there it is. Sorry, guys. Bear with me. There we go. So it's been a strange year. I think that everyone agreed to that. It's been a little crazy. Back in 2008, I was recruited by a company to head up their sales division and start a new division for them. And I was very excited about that opportunity. However, less than 2 years after starting, they completely closed down the entire company and sold the brand to another organization. And as a result of that, I found myself unemployed in 2010. Many of you may not remember, but 2010 was a very tough year for finding employment. So it took me a year and a half to actually land something new, but I learned a lot in the process. And as I went through the process of looking for a new job, which is when I connected to Career Connectors, which has been so great, I learned a lot during that process. And then I've been at a position for 8 years, and last March, I made the decision to move to another organization. And then 2.5 weeks ago, I was another casualty of the COVID crisis and end up losing my job 2.5 weeks ago. But I want to tell you this, that in the 2.5 weeks since I lost my job, I'm on the third interview with one company. I have 3 requests for consulting, and my network has never been stronger. And I did this by going through what I'm going to show and share with you today. So it was a long road to get here, and I hope that some of the things that I'm going to share with you today is going to be helpful to you. So 2020. Crazy year, right? It seems like that it's only 6 months into it and we've already lived for 5 years every month. So it's going to be a little different. And if any of you have heard me speak before, you're going to notice some significant changes in what I'm going to talk about. But the foundation of what I'm going to talk to you about today is exactly the same. The only thing that's changed is how you go about doing it. So there we go. So here's basically the agenda. I'm going to talk about where to start. Now, some of you may have been unemployed for a little while. Some of you may have just heard this morning. It's a whole gamut. And because of that, I want to kind of talk a little bit about where to start in the very beginning. So this may be a review for some of you, but I'm going to spend just a few minutes on that. And then I'm going to basically go through the process. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on resumes and interviewing because I know that Career Connectors does an entire session on that, but I will touch on that and a little bit more on upskilling, and I'll talk about that when I get there. So what do you need to do immediately? So this is the slide that I'm going to show you on what to do right away. And if you haven't done it yet, I would hope that you have filed for unemployment. This is the thing I want to mention about unemployment. There are 2 things I want to mention. One is it's not retroactive. And sometimes when you get a severance, when you leave, you have an opportunity to, you think that you can't file for unemployment or that you wait or whatever, you really need to get on that immediately, because it's not retroactive to the day that you leave. It's only retroactive to the day that you file. And so that's point one. The second point is, if you worked for a company that is in another state other than state of Arizona, you should check and find out what their benefits are in that state. As an example, in the state of Arizona, I believe the maximum per week that you can get in unemployment benefits is around, I don't know, $240, $250. But in the state of Iowa, it's almost twice that. So my company is headquartered in Iowa, so I would file in Iowa so that I can get the additional benefits. So just kind of take a look at what state your company is that you're in and see if it's possible for you to file in another state. The other thing about that is that if you file in the state of Phoenix, in the state of Arizona, and then you end up losing your position later on down the road, there is only so many times that you can file for unemployment in the state. So don't just go on and arbitrarily file. Think about what you want to do and respond accordingly. This is a time in which you're going to feel a little discombobulated. So my recommendation is to really take a list and think about your skills, your ability, your successes, what gifts you have, and kind of look over those, because I think that when in moments of really low self-confidence, you forget all the great things about you. You forget how wonderful you are, why you were hired at that last company in the first place, and all the things that you contribute to an organization. And I know that might seem silly to list that all out, but I promise you that that's going to be really helpful for you. One of the things that I like to do is right before I'm interviewing for a job, I will go on my LinkedIn page and I'll read my references. The references from people help me it reminds me that I am worthy, I am successful, I am gifted. And it's not just a matter of, it just builds your self-esteem and helps you feel better about where you're going. And so I just really recommend it. So the other thing that you want to do is now start to organize your resume. Try to avoid doing what a lot of people do when they first lose their job is they immediately start looking, they just update the paragraph on their latest job, and then it starts throwing out resumes. I would like to challenge you to think a little bit further about that. And I'm going to cover just a little bit about the resume in a little bit, but I just want to mention to you, just start organizing it. And then let's talk about what you want to do before you kind of go out and start throwing it out there. And then think about your network connections. So the first thing that I did is I made a list of all the people I wanted to reach out to. It might be recruiters in my field. It might be people. I've actually reached out to people I've interviewed with before. Believe it or not, somebody I interviewed with before said they wish they had hired me, and now they're actually recommended me for another position somewhere else. You will not believe the connections that you get if you network and continue that network and going and talking to them and having those conversations. And by the way, I would encourage you to keep your network, and Jessica mentioned this a few minutes ago, keep it going all year round. You never know when you might be able to help somebody else or be able to network with somebody on a variety of things, not just on a job search. And then your network should also include, besides recruiters, friends, family, professional connections. So think outside the box, not just a small, who do you know on LinkedIn? Go beyond that. And then think about, who do you want to work for? What I like to do is I look at newspaper articles, well, not newspaper, but news articles, I should say. And I go through my industry news articles. So if you're in marketing or if you're in retail or whatever industry you're in, every industry has a place where you can go to get information, what's the latest, what's happening with that. So when you do that, look at all the companies that are mentioned in that, and then make a target list of companies. I'm going to tell you that a lot of companies are not listed for jobs that actually have, or if they're thinking about hiring someone down the road. So I was actually looking at position one time with a company, and it was a large company out of LA. And I said, hey, I happen to be in town. Would you consider meeting me for a cup of coffee? And I wasn't asking for a job. I just would like to make a connection. And I did meet her for a cup of coffee, and she became a really strong connection of mine. I never went to work for that company, but guess what? She gave me a referral for somebody else. So think about those kind of things. Who do you want to work for, and how is that going to help you move forward in your career? Then I like to, and I keep messing up the terms, so sorry about that. Think about your elevator speech. So what is an elevator speech? And I know that everyone has probably heard of what an elevator speech is, but I don't think it's necessarily structured the way that you need to have it structured. So it should be a 15 to 20 second informative overview of who you are and where you're going. So a lot of times when I ask somebody, so who have you worked for? What do you want to do? And where do you want to go? It ends up turning into an 8 or 10 minute conversation. And I'm going to tell you, if you don't have an elevator speech down to no more than 30 seconds, you've already lost your audience. And you don't realize how often that you say your elevator speech. You don't realize perhaps how often that you're just talking to somebody, and you can pop in your elevator speech, and then all of a sudden they think, you know, I know somebody in that industry, or I know somebody who might be able to help you. And the next thing you know, you're kind of going down that path, and it's a lead that you never even thought about. So the structure of your elevator speech should be a summary of where you are, a brief overview of your professional background, your current situation, and where you're going. So as an example, I might say, you know, I've been heading up a sales department for a large educational organization that specializes in educational technology and helping colleges and universities. And you know what, I've been a victim of the latest COVID crisis, and so my department was eliminated. But I'm looking for a new role, preferably in a startup that will help me to get into more of a SaaS model and help take a new company to a different place and help them build that business. That wasn't more than 20 or 30 seconds, but it told you where I was, what happened to me, where I'm going. So think about your elevator speech and how that can be a benefit to you, because it's going to help you to capitalize on opportunities. And it's just like I mentioned, you could be sitting next to somebody 6 feet apart, of course, at a restaurant. You could be having conversations with friends or family. You could be at a park. You could be any place. And then all of a sudden, you know, someone will talk about either losing their job, or they talk about something that you have in common. And it gives you the opportunity to kind of capitalize on that opportunity and say, yeah, you know what, I'm in retail, and our, you know, business has been closed down for a while. This is where I've been. This is where I'm going. And then all of a sudden they can easily say, you know what, I know somebody that can help you. This has happened to me more times than I can tell you. It's very common. So it does help you capitalize on that. And also it forces you to think about your professional identity. So what I mean by that is that you know, don't think about necessarily where you were, but where you want to go, and create your professional identity around that, and where you want to be and who you want people to know you as. And that will help you kind of narrow down and figure out where you want to go and who you want to talk to. It tells the person, where are you headed? Where do you want to be? So if you've been in retail, as an example, for years and years, but what you really want to do is go into marketing, the marketing side of that, this will give you that opportunity to voice that and where you want to go. And that person now that you've been talking to has a better idea of where you're heading. And then it opens the door for meaningful connections. I really like that, because even if that it's meaningless to you or to them, whatever it is that you're talking about, you can have a meaningful connection with people and be able to build your network for future opportunities to engage. So I want to talk a little bit about doing a self-assessment. So what are your priorities? Like, where do you want to go? What do you want to do? And I know that that seems like a very simplistic thought process, but the truth is that most of us don't know. Most of us kind of, when we lose our job, we just start looking in the same industry. We start sending out resumes, we start doing interviews. We don't really think about, wow, where do we want to go? What do I want to do? And where do I see myself in the next 3, 4, 5 years? Am I in the industry I want to be in? Am I in the job I want to be in? Is there something else I'd like to do? And can I possibly get there in a different way? So think about that and think about where you want to go as your next step in your career. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with the DISC assessment, but Career Connectors does offer a DISC assessment. A DISC assessment basically is a personality assessment. So does the personality that you have match where you're going in your career? So do you want to do one thing, but your personality really doesn't fit in there? Maybe you're really outgoing and an extrovert, but you have a job perhaps in accounting in which you're working in a cubicle, or you're working by yourself somewhere and you really don't have that opportunity to interact with other people. That's not going to make a real extrovert necessarily, would not make you happy. So think about what your assessment is and where you want to go. And Jessica's going to talk about this at the end to kind of give you an idea where you can go with that as well. And the other thing is a career coach or mentor. Again, I'm not advertising for Career Connectors, but they do have career coaches and mentors that you can tap into that. I cannot encourage you enough. I have been in business for more years than I would like to mention to you right now, but I have a mentor. I have a mentor that I have had in my network for, I don't know, probably 10 years. Before that, I had a different mentor. Your mentor is not necessarily the person that you'll be with forever and ever, but it's going to be a path in which you're going to go, and they can help you get to where you are. My mentor talks me off a cliff. My mentor gives me suggestions. My mentor tells me that my resume is not as good as it could be. My mentor, my career coach can help me get to where I want to go. And it's really been life-changing for me. So I would highly encourage you, if you don't have a career coach, if you don't have a mentor, please consider doing that, because it's going to be a great help to you. And if you're pretty far in your career, I would like to also mention, you should be a career coach. You should be a mentor to someone else, because don't take without receiving. So think about that. Even if you have a mentor other people to help them get to where you are now. And it would be a great fulfilling thing for the both of you. So I want to talk about social network. Here's what I want to say about social network. It should be consistent, it should be professional, and it should be engaging. But here's what I want to mention about social network, and I'm going to actually talk about this here in a minute. I'm going to focus a little bit on social networking because freedom of speech does not translate to freedom of consequences. So if you decide that you would like to speak out in today's environment, and I'm going to tell you, there is a lot to be said about today's environment. There is a lot that's going on in the world today, and people want to speak out about it. And I'm not discouraging you from doing that. What I am wanting to say to you is that if you do speak out, be sure that whatever you say, you're willing to take the consequences of whatever that might mean to your future career. What that also means is that, you know, if you have a strong voice and you want to be heard on a particular issue or a particular political view or religious view or whatever, just know that there are some opportunities for you to, for people to see that and what that means. So as an example, how important is social media? Well, 65% of companies says that it helped them research their applicants' qualifications. I will tell you, I have hired thousands of people in my career, and I always Google them. I always look at what they are doing, what they're posting, and I want to make sure that they're going to be a good culture fit for our company. And 51% of them utilize public posts to check and see if they're appropriate for their culture or their work environment. So that's pretty significant. In addition to that, 34% of employers say that they help to decide whether to shortlist their applicants for job positions. I once was hiring somebody for a marketing position, and she was in the top 2 candidates. And when I looked through her social media, I felt that her posts and her viewpoint on certain things were not conducive to a kindergarten K-12 market in which we were in at that time. So I passed on her and went with a different candidate. So if you think that people aren't out looking at what you're posting, I just want to, that's not the case. However, in saying that, there are a lot of advantages to social media and being out there. What's one of those? Your resume is always on. So if you're LinkedIn, which most everybody is on the planet now, it seems like last I read, they add 2,000 people every minute or something to that effect to LinkedIn. So it's pretty significant. Your resume is always, always on. Be sure that your LinkedIn profile is up to date with your latest, everything that you've done. So whether it's, if you've done postings, if you've done additional learning opportunities, if you have your latest position up there. Nothing's more frustrating to me when I'm looking up a candidate on LinkedIn and their LinkedIn page is not up to speed or it does not match their resume. Be sure that your LinkedIn page matches your resume so that people don't think that you're trying to pull something on them and not listing something or whatever. So just be sure that that's an opportunity for you. The other thing is it communicates the changes as they happen. So the minute that changes in your career happen, that happens. So for example, right now, I haven't changed my LinkedIn page because it's only been 2.5 weeks. The other thing is that because I list years and not months and days on my resume and on my LinkedIn page, I don't necessarily have to worry about a gap until I hit 2021. So also, technically, because I'm in an environment in which I'm on administrative leave until the end of my actual employment date, that means that that I am technically still employed, and I don't want to have any gaps within one career path and another. And sometimes you want to let the world know that you're looking for a job, and sometimes you don't want to let the world know you're looking for a job. In my case, I don't want the world to know. I want to be very strategic in my job search efforts. So I'm going about it in a different way. But I love how you can communicate your change in your career the second that that it's happening. It also will help you discover career paths you haven't considered. I received a call from somebody who wanted to talk to me about a CMO position, Chief Marketing Officer. They felt like I was completely qualified for it. And that might be the case, but I didn't want to go into marketing. I love sales. I want to stay in that career path. But it proved to me that it will allow you to open up career paths that you may not have thought about. And then it also helps you to make new contacts with people that you don't know, which obviously the most interesting or whatever is Twitter or LinkedIn is the most common that we think about when we think about social media and where that's going to go. When you're focused on the responsibilities of your current job or where you've been, sometimes it's easy to overlook opportunities waiting around the corner. So your social network can really help you stay in touch with those opportunities. And then establishes your online brand. So I feel that when people go out and they look at my brand, my brand on social media, it's telling them exactly what they need to know, and they're telling them who I am and where I'm going. So I feel that my social brand is where it needs to go. So just take a look at your brand, take a look at Google yourself. About 3 or 4 years ago, I did a tweet that I regretted. And so I immediately went on and I deleted the tweet, but guess what? It stayed out there, and it stayed out there for a long time. And because, I mean, I have no idea. So deleting your social media, a tweet or a post doesn't necessarily mean it's gone. And I have to tell you, so that you don't all go out and Google me and find out what this inappropriate tweet is, I will tell you that I Googled myself again, and I went through all the pages and it's not there anymore. So it finally got buried, but, and it wasn't bad, but you know, in thinking more about it, I thought that's probably not probably not a tweet that I want on my brand. So think about that. And then join groups to share your interest or your profession. So I'll give you an example. I recently was reading an article in My Industry magazine about an up and coming company. And I was really impressed with this company and what they're doing to help students in today's environment. So I reached out to the CEO and said, hey, I would just love to connect with you. You know, we're women, we're in the top of our field, and I would just really like to connect. And as it turned out, this is a conversation that I've been having with her. I've connected with her. I've connected with the founder. I've connected with the board. This is a really great opportunity, and may or may not, but it may turn into an opportunity for me just because I thought this was a great company that was in a news article. So don't just think about people that are looking for jobs. As I mentioned earlier, they might not be thinking about it, but you can give them a reason why they need to hire you. And so this is a really great opportunity to really connect with your interests and your community. So everything is about relationships. I've said this already about 10 times, but I'm going to reiterate that. Think about who you know. Think about your current and former business associates, because those are great connections because they perhaps are already in the industry you want to stay in or that you're already in. And then think about connections to your connections. So in 1973, a sociologist, his name is Mark Grandovetter, he published a paper called The Strength of Weak Ties. And what he found was who you know was nearly 3 times more effective in finding people jobs than formal means, such as job boards or recruiters or any other method. Because most of the times the jobs found were not through close friends and relatives, but through casual acquaintances, neighbors, other what they would call weak ties. And so leveraging weak ties, this study found, actually allows us to tap into knowledge not available in our immediate circle, because we tend to hang out with people just like ourselves. So if you're an extrovert, for example, you're going to hang out with an extrovert. If you have this industry knowledge, you tend to connect with them as well. So think about the weak ties and think about what networking events, what other weak ties can you get? Who do you know that knows somebody else? I cannot stress enough the amount of times that I've talked to somebody that was a strong tie that gave me an introduction to a weak tie. It's happened so many times I can't even tell you. So in today's environment, what networking opportunities are available to you? Well, the most common one here is networkingphoenix.com. If you haven't been on networkingphoenix.com, you're really missing an opportunity. They have a ton of virtual events, virtual meetings, and you can sort them by industry, by neighborhood, by interest. There's literally an Irish club. There's an industry on financial advisors. There's all kinds of different ways that you connect with people. So because they're not doing face-to-face, there's all kinds of opportunities still. So don't think just because you're in your home that you don't have those networking opportunities. LinkedIn groups are a great place. I have had numerous people reach out to me and say, hey, you know what? We share the same interests. I would love to connect with you on LinkedIn and have a conversation. I've had phone conversations with people that I normally would not have even met had it not been for LinkedIn and them seeing the industry that I'm in. Church groups are still meeting virtually, and any current group that you might belong to. I have a book club. So I've let my book club know, hey, I'm looking for an opportunity. So if you know of anything, certainly let me know. There's all kinds of opportunities out there to meet. So there's no excuse for not networking at this point in time. Find out who these people know that can help you. Find out and explore your weak ties. All right. So going to your company target list. by now you would have made a list of all the companies that you want to work for. So I'm giving this as an example. Amazon is not a company I'm interested in working for, but here is an example of what I'm referring to. You get the company target that you're looking at, and you look them up on LinkedIn. Now you can look at the company and see if they have any job openings, but here's another opportunity. You look up your company target list. You look up it, for example, in this case, I'm looking at Amazon. Now Amazon has over 400,000 people on employees on LinkedIn, and they're a large, gigantic company. So I probably should have, and for the sake of this, have chosen a smaller organization to show you. But this gives you exactly what I'm talking about. I have 3 people that work at Amazon, and they're in 3 different areas of Amazon. So what I would do in this particular case is I might reach out to Megan, for example, and say, Megan, I'm looking to work for Amazon. I happen to know that Megan knows the HR person or the recruiter over at Amazon and can make that introduction for me. And then if she makes introduction to the HR person at Amazon, I can then say, hey, recruiter, hey, HR person, this is my background. This is kind of what I'm looking for. If you have any opportunities that come up that meet my qualifications, I would love to have further conversation about that. Now, I've done that, and not at Amazon, with another organization. And as it turned out, the HR person said, you know what, as a matter of fact, we're about to post something that I think might be a good fit for you. And next thing you know, I was first in line for the interview. So this is how it's going to help you for your target list. And don't just think of those who have job postings. Think about those that you have connections with, and then reach out to those connections and ask for an introduction. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about your resume. As I mentioned, I'm just going to briefly touch on this. One of the things that is very interesting is back in the day, and now I'm aging myself here, but back in the day, your resume used to be very robotic, very, accomplished it, did this, and it didn't even do full sentences, but it never told you or the person that was reading it who you really were and who you are. So I rewrote my resume so that my summary on my resume is who I am, what I want, and where I'm going. Now, I'm not necessarily advocating that you should rewrite that. You certainly should write your summary for the job that you're looking at. Not necessarily, it shouldn't necessarily be generic. But for example, on a resume I received one time, the person told me that they were quirky. That actually prompted me to call this person for an interview, because I like quirky people. I want a quirky person working with me. It will help me be quirky maybe sometimes instead of so stiff and robotic myself. So that was something that she wrote on her resume that was really appealing to me. But all her friends, when I interviewed her, I told her that I really liked that she had it on her resume, and she told me that all her friends told her to take it off because that's something that she should hide about herself. And that's actually kind of sad. But in my resume, what I say is, one of the things I say is, I treat your company as though it were my own. And I do that. And I want people to know that that's who I am. And so think about being a little more human in your conversation within your summary, and help people to know who you are, because everybody does the robotic resume. I wish cover letters were banned. I wish we never had cover letters, because frankly, I don't like getting them. I don't ask for them when I'm interviewing, and I don't think anybody ever reads them. However, if they require a cover letter, don't make it a regurgitation of whatever your resume is. Start by writing a pain letter. You can write a pain letter if you've done your research with a company. As soon as you see a job posting, your automatic response is typically to send a resume, send a cover letter, and kind of get going with it. I would encourage you to do a little research before you send that resume off, so that you can personalize your resume, personalize your cover letter, find out what kind of pain this company is going through, and let them know that you can help them solve their problems, and you can help them with their pain. The other thing is have somebody look at your resume with a critical eye. Now, again, Career Connectors has that opportunity. They will be glad to look over your resume for you, get a friend to do it, get a recruiter to do it, have somebody look it over. I literally used a resume for 6 months before I finally was reading over it one more time before I sent it out and found out I had a typo in it. I mean, I couldn't believe it. 6 months. I had that thing reviewed by 3, 4, 5 different people, and they all missed the fact that I used the word lead instead of lead. So, so have somebody look at it, really, really review it. Again, I would encourage you not to just update your latest job and send it out. Take a look at it and kind of redo it in today's environment. You may not have been, you may have been working for a while and things have changed since you wrote your resume last. The other thing is that when you send a resume to a company, be careful of the URL within your resume. What I mean by that is you don't want to send out a resume that says Naomi Bhakta resume draft, Naomi Bhakta resume industry, like education or whatever. You want to say Naomi Bhakta resume Amazon, so that Amazon, when they get your resume, they know that you've taken the time to actually write a resume for them, or whatever the name of the company is. So I always make my URL the exact resume, and then I always put the date on it, so that if I have to refer back to it, I know what date I applied for the position and kind of can go from there. And then just make sure that your resume points to the future. Resumes tend to look back on everything that you've accomplished, but help it to take you into the future by giving them an idea of what you can accomplish for their organization, what's important, what's the future that you want them to know about you to help you move forward. And then most important is don't make it task-oriented, make it accomplishment-driven. So you don't want to say, for example, you might say, for example, managed a team of 5 people in the accounting department. Well, that's all fine, but what did you accomplish by that? So what you might say instead is hired a team of 5 people, built the processes from the ground up, created a training program that had from start to the next 60 days and increased productivity by 14% as a result of a new training program you developed. Whatever that is, make it very accomplishment driven versus task. When you first start looking for a position, you want to you're looking at it kind of as a funnel approach. So at the top of the funnel, it's kind of like throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks, right? You're just throwing resumes out, you're kind of doing everything. Eventually, you want to start going down the end of that funnel until you are laser focused on what you want to do. At some point, when you're at the bottom of that funnel, you should know exactly what industry you want to be in, what exact job you want to be in, what the responsibilities are that you want to do, and how you want to do it. You're working 8 hours a day minimally. Do you really want to get into a job just because it pays well, or because it just happens to be the first one that came to offer you an opportunity? I can tell you that people always say life is short. Well, I'm going to tell you, if you're in a job that you hate and that you have to go to every day, life becomes very, very long. I've left a job for numerous reasons in my career. I've left a job because I didn't care for the people that I worked with or the people I worked for. I've left a job because I felt like there was some ethical issues I didn't want to be a part of. I've left a job because I've had new opportunities that I thought would be better. I left a job because I wanted to grow in a different area. I left the job because I wanted to learn something new and different. Even though I'd been in the same field for years and I'd been very successful, I literally changed entire career 3 times. So that I was originally in the apparel industry, I went into the toy industry, which is completely different, and then I went into the educational industry. I've been in there for like 10 years. So so I think I'm done now. I think I'm where I want to be and where I want to go. So so think about this funnel approach. there's more than one way to be able to reach out and start looking for opportunities. So if we're going to talk about job postings for a second, then don't just review the recruiter sites, reach out directly to the hiring manager. So a couple weeks ago, I saw a job post that I was really interested in. So I applied for that position, and then I reached out to the job poster, who happened to be the vice president of HR. Well, from there, I got a reject for my resume for the standard, because I had applied, 200 other people applied. But then, because I reached out to the job poster, that person then went on my LinkedIn profile, looked at my resume, and set me up for an interview. So whatever process they were using to just automated of going through 200 resume, I got lost in that. So don't just expect your resume to be standing out. You have to go the extra mile and make that happen. Nothing may become of it, but something could. So there's an opportunity there. So I always reach directly out to the job poster so that they know I'm interested. And I think it tells the employer how incredibly interested you are in the organization. And be sure that when you reach out to the job poster, you let them know why you're interested. Don't just spit out why you want a job. Talk about, you know what, I'm so impressed with Mainframe Solutions. I saw an article where you said whatever, how you are revolutionizing your industry by doing this or that. Like, give them something, give them some meat. If you're going to reach out to them, make it meaningful for them. And then the other thing is that this gives you an opportunity to connect, even if the job isn't right for you. You at least have made a new connection. And maybe if you're not qualified or you're not in mind for what they have right then and there, that will then give you an opportunity for them to keep you in mind for something else down the road. So just another thought for you as you go through that. All right, so let's get ready for the interviews. I do something kind of unusual that I want to share with you, and that is I do a portfolio. Now, I know that most people don't do a portfolio, and I don't know how it's going to turn into how this is going to look for the future of interviewing, because I don't know if people are going to do face-to-face, if they'll do a little social distancing. But I will tell you that years ago, I created a portfolio. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you can see it, but this is what it looks like. It's a leather bound, and inside here, inside this portfolio, I have letters of recommendations I've received from every company I ever worked for. I have certificates or licenses that I have. I have news articles that might have featured me. You might have examples of your work. If you're a creative person, if you're a designer, you want to have examples of that. If you're in marketing, you want to have examples of websites maybe that you developed. You might want to have examples of other work that you have done. But just even if you're not a creative person, which I certainly am not, I still create this binder and I take it with me on interviews, because there are still people who still start an interview. So tell me about yourself. That's probably the worst question ever on an interview, but some people still do that. And when they do, I can bring out my portfolio and I can kind of walk them through my career in a very succinct way. And I've always had extremely good success on that. So make sure it's up to date if that's what you want to do. And make sure it has it shows your personality and who you are. Then I would always recommend developing a 30, 60, 90-day plan. Now, everyone asks me when I bring this up, you know, I don't know enough about the company to do that. Well, you should know enough about the company when you go into your first, and I'm talking about a face-to-face or your when you start getting into serious interviews, not in the very beginning, for example, when they're just kind of walking through your resume. I'm talking about when you get to the next step. So employers almost always ask the question, if we hired you, what would be your thoughts in the first 30 days on the job? What would you want to do? Now, I cheated. What I mean by that is I went online and looked up a 30, 60, 90-day plan, and then so I found a template for it, and I created my 30, 60, 90 plan. Every job I ever interview, I do a 30, 60, 90 plan. And by the way, the last job that I went to work for, I created that 30, 60, 90. And when I started the job, they took that 30, 60, 90 and applied it to me. So be sure that you're giving it some thought. And what I mean by that is you're not going to know a ton about the company, but you know what you want to show in this 30, 60, 90 days is how much you want to learn and how you want to grow with the company in the first 90 days in order to go forward and make an impact on their business, regardless of the industry you're in. Now, for me, I like to do that, and I wait for them to ask me for this question before I offer it. So it's up to you whether you want to offer it straight out or whether or not you want to, pull it out and talk about it when you have an opportunity to ask them questions. But think in terms of strategic versus task-oriented. So you obviously want to train, learn the product, learn the company and those type of things, but make it strategic as well so that it's not just very task-oriented unless that's very specific to your job or industry. Now, you want to create and prepare questions for every level of the organization. So you're not going to ask this, well, I like to ask a couple questions for every level of the organization. And why I like to do that is because I want to know that whatever strategic plan they have for going forward, everybody's on the same page. Because if I ask the question, where do you see the company in 3 to 5 years? And I get a different answer from every single level of the organization, that's frightening to me. Remember that you're also interviewing this company to see if you want to work there. So don't be afraid to ask questions. And I'm going to tell you that it's rather annoying as somebody who interviews people for someone not to have any questions for me. If they get to my level and they say, oh, you know what, I've already asked all the questions to, the person before you, then that makes me wonder whether or not they really want to understand the organization as a whole. So do they really want to know where the company is and where it's going? So prepare questions for every level of the organization. And when you get to a higher level, you want to prepare questions that's more strategic. For example, you don't want to ask them, what are the hours? What are the benefits for a vice president or a CEO of a company? Those kind of questions should be way more strategic. And tell me about where you want to take the organization. But you know what I do want to know? I want to know about the culture. The culture is very important to me. So I want to know, what's the culture like? Even if you're a remote employee, I want to know that the culture is someplace I want to go and where I want to work. So the other thing I would highly recommend is that you practice your interview skills. I always have a saying that if you're sending out your resume and you're not getting any responses, it's likely your resume. If you're getting a phone interview but not getting a face-to-face, it's likely your phone skills. If you're getting face-to-face interviews but you're not getting offers, it's probably your interviewing skills. So think about, as you go through each level of your interviewing process, where it is that you're getting stuck. So if you're getting a whole lot of phone interviews but you're not getting past that, then think about having somebody and practice with somebody in the organization to find somebody to practice with. And that's a great way to utilize your coach or your mentor in that regard. And then be prepared to give examples. If you haven't been on the job search for a while, I have to tell you that behavioral interviewing is highly, highly used in today's environment. Give me an example of a time when you, give me an example of a goal you set and how you achieved it. Give me an example of a time where you disagreed with someone higher level than you and tell me how you repaired that relationship. Give me an example, give me an example, give me an example. Be prepared. They will ask you. And you can, by the way, Google behavioral questions, and you can kind of prepare yourself. As you go through your resume, be sure that when you are looking at your resume and you say, hey, I increased sales by 27%, be sure that you can back that up with very strong examples of how you did that. And then I know I said this 3 times already, research the company. You need to go into an interview having done your homework. And it annoys me to no end, people who come in and they don't know anything about my company, what we do. And so I end up, of the 30 minutes that I've scheduled with them, I end up spending 10 minutes in the beginning answering questions about the company that they could have gotten online just by doing a little background check. So that's kind of an overview of the interview. But I want to give you two things. And if you don't hear anything else I say today, these two things will be, these are the two most important things that you're going to hear from me today. And so I would love for you to utilize these two things. So at the beginning of an interview and at the end of an interview, I ask these questions. And I promise you that if you do that, you're going to understand where you stand. So the first question I always do at the very beginning of the interview is, before we start, can you tell me, in your opinion, what you consider to be the 2 or 3 most important attributes for the candidate in this role? Now, why is that important? Because if you ask me that question and I give you 2 or 3 attributes, I expect that for the next 30 minutes to an hour that you have that interview, you're going to spend that entire time talking about those attributes that are most important to me. So then when I go to the next level interview, I'm going to ask the CEO or the vice president or the next level person I'm talking to that same question. Because guess what? The attributes that are important to the sales manager, to the finance person, to the production assistant, to the product development team, those aren't going to be the same attributes. They're going to be all different attributes, even though they want one person for those attributes. But I one time asked this question, and the answer I got surprised me. It wasn't anything like what they had within the job description. So I had to pivot and talk about, because I did have those attributes, but I didn't highlight them on my resume. So I wasn't even sure why they called me, because at that point in time, they were going down a different path. So that has saved me more than once. So I strongly encourage you, even at the beginning of the interview, even before they start talking, say, just so that I'm sure that I understand, talk to me about the 2 or 3 most important attributes that you have for this candidate. Then at the end of the interview, ask this question: is there any reason why you wouldn't consider moving me to the next phase of the interview process? So I ask this question at the end when they're sitting there going, well, thanks very much, I appreciate your time, blah, blah, blah. You ask that question. Is there any reason why you wouldn't consider moving to the next level or the next phase of the interview process? I'm going to tell you that this will give you the opportunity to flesh out anything they didn't think to ask you, or you didn't think to bring up, or they didn't even realize was important. So I'll give you a real life example. At the end of an interview I had last year, I asked this question, and the gentleman said, yes. He said, well, he said, I'm really excited that you have this experience and this experience, but we really had hoped that we could find somebody who had this experience of economic development and how we can prepare our adult learners in the next phase. And I'm like, oh, I didn't realize that. Well, let me talk to you about what I've done in that area. And bam, went in, he said, now that makes a difference. I'm moving you to the next level. So if I hadn't asked that question, I would have left that interview not knowing that there was another attribute that he had in his back of his mind he didn't share in the beginning. So I hope that makes sense. And if you don't do anything else, I suggest to you today that these 2 things that you absolutely do. All right, I'm watching the time, Jessica. So I know that I'm about out, so I'm going to fly through here. Well, I wasn't even about out. I am out, right?
Yeah, you have a couple more minutes. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm going to fly through then, because that's the meat of it, and I want to give you some encouragement. And I'm kind of I didn't realize, and even when I practiced, I didn't take as long, because I want to talk about getting off your couch. I want to say you should think about volunteering, or and if you do, you can add that to your resume and make a part of your profile. So you can put it in. What is it that you have that you can share with everybody else? And think about, please don't sit on your couch for the next 30 days or 60 days or 2 months waiting for something to happen. Take control of your job interviewing, your job process. So employers want to know what you've been doing with yourself. I want to tell you that I have an example of a gentleman who decided to be a stay-at-home dad for a little while, and I encouraged him to do volunteer work while his kids were in school. He didn't do that, and he had a terrible time finding something else because everyone said you've been out of the market too long. So just think about it. But I want to talk about upskilling really quick because this is the other part of the importance of what I want to talk to you about. I don't know how many of you know what a MOOC is. A MOOC is a massive online course, and they're free. There are thousands of them that provide you with a flexible way to learn new skills, advance in your career. It's really a quality education. I literally took a course that I'll show it to you here in a few minutes. But Harvard Business Review surveyed 52,000 people, and 72% said that the online helped them professionally. 43% said that improved their candidacy for a job. 26% respondents cited class as a reason for their new job that they got, and 19% changed to a new career. 9% credit the MOOC for aiding them in starting a business too, by the way, if that's the direction you want to go. So the primary motivation, here you go, is career benefits, substantial career benefits. So here are the 5 top MOOC providers. The 4 that I like the best are edX, and this will be available, I think Jessica will tell you in a minute, but this is going to be available online. You can go back and look at this at any point in time. But there are thousands and thousands of courses available to you. I want to tell you that LinkedIn Learning has an incredible array of courses that are available to you, and they're really great. When I was looking for a job last year, I can't tell you how many people said, well, do you know Salesforce? And I said, no, I've been using Microsoft Dynamics, which is very similar to Salesforce. Well, they didn't know Microsoft Dynamics, so they didn't know it was similar. And so I went on LinkedIn Learning, and I got certified on learning Salesforce, and so that it was not a hindrance to my next career move. I took a class in social marketing from the Wharton School of Business. And so you can actually create a new section for MOOCs. You can do it on your resume. It can be under professional development. Just make sure it's relevant. You can take a cooking class, for example, but if you're not a chef, that may not be relevant. And then also only list those that you completed, because only 5% of people actually complete their courses. Include the institution like I did there with Wharton, and always include job-related skills. Demonstrate your value. If you can showcase your work, if it's applicable, you certainly want to do that. So speak positively no matter what the situation is you just left, and be positive every time you talk to somebody. It doesn't have to be a negative experience for you. And attend your virtual meetings like we talked about. You can make your own opportunities. You can do contract work. You can consult if you want to. You can teach a class. There are things that you know. You can work part-time to make ends meet until you find where you really want to go. And you can also do things you always wanted to do, but you haven't. So I would just challenge you, and I'm going to just throw these up here and you can look at them later. I want to challenge you to really think about where you want to go and things that you can do right now that doesn't have to be all about the job search. You can really make a difference in your life and where you're going. So I'm going to end with this quote here by Scott Peck. Our finest moments are most likely to occur when we are feeling deeply uncomfortable, unhappy, or unfulfilled, for it is only in such moments, propelled by our discomfort, that we are likely to step out of our ruts and start searching for different ways or true answers. So it doesn't have to be the worst time of your life. It can be the best time. You might be growing in a different way. So this, I know you've heard when one door opens, window closes, a door opens. I can't remember the quote right now, but it's really true. You can go after something you really want to go after, and find comfort in your discomfort. So thanks for having me. If you have questions, or if I don't look at the chat, I should have mentioned that at the beginning, but thanks very much for everything for having me here. And if you have any questions, I'm glad to answer those as well.
Thank you, Naomi. We, as you were talking, some questions were coming up and we were addressing them as you were going along. So I think everything was covered. I love the challenge you threw out at the end, and I wrote down, write down 10 people you'll connect with. That's so powerful, especially right now. So if you guys, as you're making your list of things you have to get done, you know, who are 10 people you can connect with? I see a couple questions have come in about the PowerPoint. We don't post the PowerPoint live because of intellectual property. However, we do two things. We have a blogger today. Connie Huber is blogging for us. She's our volunteer. That will get up in the next, usually within 2 days. That's posted on our website under event recaps. And so all this content will be written there. And then we also have the full recording available if you'd like to go back and watch this. Sheila gets this posted usually the same day on our website on the homepage under CC webinar. So Julia is dropping in the URLs on our chat. So she will put that URL in there where you can go right to the webinar. One other thing I wanted to talk about was, Naomi, at the beginning of the talk, you talked about unemployment, and just a couple quick things on that. Absolutely apply if you can to a state where you could have a higher level of pay. But just a reminder that there's an additional $600 a week right now because of pandemic unemployment. And that applies through July 25th. So go in and make sure you're applying for your unemployment, and that will automatically be added on. Also, just because of the pandemic, some of your weeks may actually be retro paid and they normally are not. And so that's part of the new law that they are allowing some of those weeks. So if you didn't apply and you need to catch up, get in there and you can submit all your weeks of unemployment. And so some people are doing that and getting very big checks to catch them up. So unemployment system certainly isn't perfect right now, but it's trying to catch up from the overwhelming response of need. So Naomi, we appreciate you. You can see in the chat, tons of people are like, thank you, thank you, thank you. It was phenomenal. If you could stay on, and Naomi will stay on if you have some more questions for her, just drop them in the chat and then she can check out the chat and answer your questions. So thank you again for being here. It's good to see you, friend. Really appreciate you today. All right, we're gonna move on to Liz. Liz is a lead staffing specialist at Blue Cross Blue Shield of Arizona. And in this position, she helps find talent which inspires health in the lives of Arizonans. Liz received her bachelor's degree in HR management just in this past May from Ashford University. She has over 15 years of HR experience, 8 of those with talent acquisition. Using this experience, Liz helps match people to careers and not just jobs. In addition to being a high volume recruiter, Liz takes heart to the mission of Blue and lives the sweaty life. She enjoys working out regularly, and you may catch her at a local sporting event, running around the streets of Metro Phoenix, literally running, paddleboarding, hiking, or at one of her 3 children's sports or school activities. So please help me welcome Liz Martinez to our stage.
Thank you very much, Naomi. That was such a great message. I really enjoyed listening to that today. And I'll touch on some of the things that you mentioned as well. I was taking some good notes too later on in my slideshow. So we'll go ahead and jump on in. I know we're kind of getting pressed for time. I just wanted to give a brief overview about Blue Cross Blue Shield Arizona. We were founded in 1939. Right now we have over 2,400 employees across Arizona in 6 cities. And a little over 1.7 million customers right now. And we have coverage in every county in Arizona. I thought this was really important to share with you. It talks a little bit about our diversity in the organization. So as you can see, most of our population is female. Also, we're seeing our millennial population increase as well. So that's pretty exciting. And then we have about 12 offices across the state of Arizona. We have a few satellite offices in Flagstaff, Chandler, Tucson. We're also in Surprise. Most of our positions that you'll see will actually be for our Phoenix office. So we try to include the location in the job title if it will be different than Phoenix. So that's just something important to note there. that when you're looking at our career page, most of those positions are going to be out of our Phoenix office. Of course, right now that's changed a little bit due to COVID-19, and I'll talk a little bit about our teleworking environment right now too. So these are some of the awesome awards that we've won as an organization. A new one that's not on here that you'll probably see communication if you're connected with me or anyone with Blue on LinkedIn is the Arizona Central top organizations to work for. That was just announced in June, so that's very exciting, and that'll be added to this slide here soon, I'm sure. So as an organization, we have 3 healthy initiatives that we've selected. This is going on our 3rd year now that we're moving forward with these. And I thought it was important to share just because we want employees that are going to be able to support us in our initiatives, our mission, our vision, our values. So this is something that all of our employees take to heart. We have this Mobilize AZ website that's out there, free resources for employees, non-employees, everyone, customers, non-customers, just to get help if you or anyone you know has substance use disorder, mental health. Right now, we're reading a lot about how our mental health concerns are peaking with the pandemic, just all the uncertainty, people getting laid off. I mean, it's a trying time right now. It's stressful. So we have a lot of great resources for mental health, and then also diabetes. So those are the 3 initiatives that we've taken under our belt and really want to help improve to help inspire health in the lives of Arizonans. For our organization, of course, being in healthcare, we have a great benefits package, medical, dental, vision, life insurance. I wanted to speak to kind of the untraditional benefits that we have. So right now, specifically with the pandemic, we've created a microsite for our current employees to be able to quickly access resources and get information about what's going on with the pandemic across the organization, what we're doing to help employees and the community, and how they can help. We also went from 25% of our employee population teleworking to 97% in just a few weeks. So that I have to applaud IT and everybody that was behind that, because that was a quick, fast, smooth transition for a lot of us to move to that remote environment and be able to work from home and feel safe and take care of kids, you know, that are no longer able to go to childcare and schools being closed. So that definitely helped, I think, with a lot of stress. But now we're seeing the stress of trying to work from home and have a house full of kids and, you know, take care of dogs and pets and things like that. So we have all of our online training classes have moved remote and virtual as well. We have some fun things that we've added on site. We had a fitness or an on-site gym with a dietitian. So we've moved those virtual. We have virtual Zoom classes that you can do with your kids, nutrition classes that you can do with your kids. So we're trying to support our employees in a remote environment, in the environment that they're currently in, you know, with their kids and their families, and include all of them to help, you know, stay healthy both physically and mentally right now. For our candidates, we, of course, have moved all of our interviews to a virtual environment. So we use Microsoft Teams a lot, but there's a lot of different programs that you might interview with if you are selected to move forward with one of our positions. All of our onboarding is 100% remote. So we mail out equipment. We get you all set up with our IT team. There's no face-to-face needed. We've set all of that up remotely, and our training is set up to support the remote environment right now as well. And then, of course, just talking about our jobs, I was talking to somebody yesterday and I just mentioned how frequently our jobs are changing. I did get on the website this morning, and I mean, we have everything from customer service openings, which is considered our entry-level positions that just recently got posted. We have a need for that. Right now, we're gearing up for our open enrollment season, which is typically around August to March. So a lot of temporary opportunities right now. And then, of course, I couldn't guarantee anything, but some of those temporary opportunities do have opportunities to transition to full-time employment, you know, at the end of those assignments. So it would be great. Both of those opportunities are great ways to get your foot in the door, you know, make those connections like Naomi, and that's been the frequent message today as well. And really just learn about our organization where you can see yourself growing, and about our different positions. We have a lot of IT positions. I saw a few manager roles out there. I would really, again, like to encourage you to make those connections. I tried to go through the chat and connect with anyone that had their LinkedIn profile there, but there's a lot of chat going on, which is awesome. I encourage you to reach out to me and connect. On our website, we have a new feature. It's our chatbot, Olivia. You can actually engage with the chatbot. If you don't see a position posted today, make that connection. You can type in the chatbot, you know, speak to a recruiter, and you'd get connected to one of us on the team and just have that phone conversation or that virtual conversation. Share your resume. That way, you know, we're able to make those connections again. And who knows what approvals we're going to get today. Something might pop up in the next day or two, and it would just be great to already have that introduction. You can do check-ins weekly, periodically, and see how we're doing, see if anything's come up. And I definitely encourage that connection as well. We're really strong in our social media and our LinkedIn presence as well, so you can connect with our Blue Cross Blue Shield of Arizona page. And then another new feature that we added to connect with us and engage with us is our texting option. So you can text BCBS of AZ to 25000 and start engaging with that chatbot as well. If you want to override again and just get to speak to a recruiter, you can just request speak to a recruiter, and that message would get sent to one of us on the team to reach out directly. Otherwise, that's really all I wanted to go over with you right now. I just wanted to mirror what Naomi said about the importance of updating your profile. I think that's very important as well. And as a recruiter, you know, updating your resume, not just necessarily for the organization, but for the position you're applying for. Oftentimes as a recruiter, we see a blanket resume. You know, people create one resume and they think it's going to work for every role. We really need you to go in there, read the requirements, highlight that you meet those requirements on your resume. That just makes it easier for us to screen. We do get, you know, sometimes 50 to hundreds of resumes for one position. So if we don't see those requirements within the resume, we're not able to outreach and say, hey, you know, I don't see that you have 2 years of healthcare on your resume. Did you just miss it for some reason? We need it to actually be on there, and that just helps our process go a lot smoother. But I'm happy to help answer any questions as well about either any of our positions or our resume or what our recruiting process looks like, our benefits, Mobilize AZ, anything I can do to help. I'm more than willing to have those conversations. Thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you for your time today. I really love something she said. I want to make sure you guys heard it. So, because one of our speakers said this within the last couple weeks, is making sure that your resume matches the job description. So each time you apply for a job, that resume should be edited to match the job description. So utilizing their language, making sure the experience that you need for that position is listed. So that's great. That's a great tip. Thank you so much, Liz. Recruiters actually look for your resume to be similar to what the job is, the job you're applying for. All right, so now we're going to move forward and let's see.
Hey, Jessica, I just wanted to say something real quick, if you don't mind. I've had a couple people ask me about the chat. We used to be able to copy and paste the chat so you could save off the information during the event. We have had to shut that down just as a security measure, but I just wanted everyone to know that we will go through and pull out all the relevant things that don't have any personal information attached to them and include it in the blog. So no worries. And then Jessica,
oh, that's a great solution. Good, thank you. All right, let's see, moving on. Okay, I'm gonna close out here. I have a couple things. If you have any questions, feel free to continue dropping them in the chat for the next couple minutes while we go through this. One thing I would love to hear from you guys is, where did you hear about us? Especially, you know, if you're new today, we'd love to hear how you heard about us. we, you know, you've heard volunteering is one of the great ways to connect, you know, to utilize your skills right now. So of course, we're always looking for volunteers, but something that we're asking of all of you is if you could help us get the word out about Career Connectors. We, because we're in a virtual setting now, we have the ability to serve a lot more people than we typically can. So if you could do anything to help us get the word out by resharing our social media posts, letting your friends know. You likely know somebody else who's going through this right now. I just saw somebody on the line that is from Honeywell, and they just had a big layoff. And so any of your friends that have been laid off, please let them know. If you need some language, if you need some context, if you need a flyer, just shoot us a note at contact@careerconnectors.org and we will get that to you. We would love to get this information out to as many people as need some hope and encouragement and connections right now. All right, we are looking for your feedback also. Because we're in a virtual environment, we're going to do it a little bit differently. Usually we do an evaluation at our events, but Sheila is going to launch a poll right now. I think we're going to have 4 questions today. They're going to come up one at a time. Just answer the poll and then it will go away. And so the webinar registration was easy. If that answer is yes to you, click it. If it's no, click it, and then the poll will go away. That will end in just a minute, and then she will launch the next question. Thank you. All right. If you have additional feedback that you'd like to give us, maybe you have some companies you'd like us to invite out, you have some topics you'd like for us to focus on, just email that again to contact@careerconnectors.org. Thank you so much to all of our partners. We couldn't do this without you. So these are our current corporate partners, and we are just incredibly thankful for all of them making this happen across the valley and more now. Another great resource for you guys, if you haven't checked this out, I encourage you to go look. This is a great way to find out some really good companies that are hiring. bestcompaniesaz.com. Best Companies AZ is a partner with us and actually an original founder of Career Connectors as well. We have partnered up with them, and what they do is they go out and recognize best places to work in Arizona, most admired companies. They own that list, and they recognize these companies. And we have worked together to come up with a list of 65 companies in Arizona that are great places to work and are hiring right now. And so you can go to bestcompaniesaz.com/resources to find that list. You'll also see on the bottom of that page an additional 120 or so companies that are hiring. And so lots of jobs out there right now. Last count I had was 210,000. No, I'm sorry, 140,000 companies were hiring. And so, or 140,000 jobs were open in the Phoenix metro area. So we have jobs out there. It just takes a little bit of time to go find them and see who is hiring. All right, we've had a couple people mention multiple different things about our resources. And so Naomi mentioned the DISC assessment. There's the link, careerconnectors.org/DISC, and you can also find it on our resources section. Go out and take the DISC. It's a 24-page report you're going to get back. It's completely free. And because of a relationship we have with Top Talent Consulting, you will learn about your communication style, your ideal work environment. There's a lot of great context within the assessment that you can utilize to put on your resume, incorporate into your resume, talk about in your interviews. You can print it out and include it in your portfolio. So such a great resource. I encourage you to do that. And we also have, I mentioned this, an event recap blog happening today. Connie is furiously taking notes right now, and we will post that blog in the next day or so. And so you can go out there and get a recap of this one, as well as all of the events we've had in the last, I think, 6 or 7 years are posted out there. Here we have listed our social media platforms on the bottom. So we are very active in LinkedIn. Join our LinkedIn group. Go out to LinkedIn, search up Career Connectors, and you'll be able to join our group. There's a lot of information, job postings out there for the LinkedIn group, recruiters posting in there. Check out our Facebook page. We have events. We go live on Facebook for these events as well. You can always reshare these events. You can do a watch party to let your friends know about the program as well. All right, here, this is a really interesting program. So typically at our face-to-face events, we have an hour at the end where all of our resources are there, and you can meet with each of them for a couple minutes and get some guidance. We have turned that into a virtual program, and so go out to careerconnectors.org/coaching, and there is a short form for you to fill out. And on that form, you can click on the areas that you would like to meet with somebody. So they're 10-minute micro meetings, and you can meet with a career coach, a LinkedIn coach, a resume writer, all professional. The resume writers are the Resume Writers Council of Arizona, professional, current, certified resume writers that know what they're talking about. We also have a finance coach. We have someone helping with mock interviews. And so if you have an interview coming up and you want to do a mock interview, that's a great one for you to do. So all of those are available. Just go out, fill that form out, and we will get you connected with some coaches. All right, here's what we have coming up. Our hiring companies will be announced in your email, so make sure you check your inbox on Monday mornings. If you are not yet getting our emails, then if you registered, you will start getting them on Monday mornings. If you did not register and you happen to see this on Facebook Live or another way, then hop on our homepage, careerconnectors.org, and subscribe to our email. And so you get an email update every Monday morning with the events that are coming up. So next Wednesday, we have Christy Staub. She's so good, you guys. The Leader's Mindset, Your Values Measure What Matters. And then we're going to hear on July 22nd from a new speaker, Miriam Spinner, and she is going to talk about how to shine using LinkedIn. So she'll talk about the functionality, but also really how do you brand yourself and engage on LinkedIn. Chris, I think, mentioned the SSI on LinkedIn. It's in the chat if you didn't see that. There's a link to the SSI to give you a score. I have never heard of that before. Went in, checked my score, and then I'm really interested in seeing how that elevates your brand in LinkedIn. So she's going to talk a lot about how to make it shine in LinkedIn. And then Jeff Wallinger, another new speaker, Know Your Story, Tell Your Story, Sell Your Story. So often we land jobs through connections, connecting with people. So how are you sharing your story? And he will talk about how you're doing that, how to do that, and why it matters. All right, here is a screenshot of our homepage. You can see the subscribe here button on the top right. So if you want to subscribe to our email updates, if you're not getting them, I encourage you to subscribe to them. Also, here are the 3 ways that we are connecting with you in a virtual format right now. So the first one on the left-hand side are career chats with me. I'm doing a post a couple times a week with job tips, unemployment updates, etc. You can check on the career chat and see all the ones we've posted. So that's that one. The next one is a community update. So the first one, the career chat, is 3 to 5 minutes updates. The community updates are interviews with experts in the field, whether it's around job search, like the Resume Writers Council of Arizona has a great one. We did a LinkedIn one with some LinkedIn experts. We did an update with the DES director on unemployment. Some nonprofits are in there, and so with resources, and so you can click on that. Those are 20, 30 minutes each. And then the last one are the CC webinars. That's what you're seeing today. All of our past virtual webinars are posted in there since we started this in March. Thank you to our awesome volunteers. It takes so many people to make this happen. And we just want to thank you for all your support. We have an arsenal of coaches that are out there supporting all of you as you're requesting different meetings and different coaching. And Michelle, Julia, thank you for being on the back end today and helping run the Zoom and answering questions. We really appreciate you. All right, well, lots of good stuff today. And I just want you all to know, hang in there. If you have questions, you can email them to us. We are here for you, and we are praying for you that you all land into the career of your dreams. Have a great week. Bye.